Hello dear friends and net aspirants, welcome back to yet another video session in the series of literary theory and criticism. In here we are going to learn about reader response criticism. Okay, reader response criticism. We have finished deconstructive criticism. If you have missed them, you can find that in the I button or towards the end of the video. You can find that, or in the description box I have given the link to the introductory video of the literary criticism, deconstructive literary criticism. Okay, so before going into the video, do visit my website so that you get a comprehensible idea about what you need to learn for your NTE UGC NET JRF English Language and Literature paper 2 one by one. There you will find anything and everything that you need to cover for your preparation, NTE UGC NET preparation. And also follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you get a notification whenever we upload something in here. And after visiting the website, if you are interested, you can join our family as a student and have the free bonuses as well, along with the 15% off going on in the fee structure. If you are interested, let me know through this number, WhatsApp number, or use the Instagram page to reach out to me. Okay, let's move on. After this introduction, we will look at the key concepts, key literary figures, literary critics of reader response criticism, and also key text related to reader response criticism. Okay, it focuses on the role of the reader in actively constructing a text rather than passively consuming them. See, in consuming, just reading and understanding the story of the work, a novel and all, there the reader is not actively participating in constructing a text. Whatever the author has mentioned, only understanding the superficial meaning and idea, passively the reader is reading and consuming it. That is not focused in reader response criticism. It focuses on the role of the reader in actively constructing the meaning of a text. It believes that a literary text possesses no fixed and finding meaning or value. So, a literary text possesses no fixed or final meaning or final fixed value. Its value as a literary text will change. I'll give you an example. See, in take any age of English literature. See, we are currently doing restoration age. So I'll take take any example. So you can say that there are many plays. Plays are prominent during this time, during restoration time. So take any see, Way of the World. Way of the World so popular during that time. Now also we are learning it, but the value somewhat changed. Some other immense number of works must have written during this time, but not every other work, not every other play got the same value as Way of the World. Not every other play got an entrance to the English canon, got an entrance to people's mind, got a value that will even make it so relevant even after centuries. Okay, so there is no fixed value for a text, no fixed and final meaning. According to the change in reader, perspective of the reader, then the construction of the text, meaning in that text will also change. Literary meaning and the value are transactional. So literary meaning means the meaning of a text, and the value associated to text, they are transactional. It will undergo some changes created by the interaction of the reader and the text. So this meaning and the value, both these things are created. How these two things are created? By doing interactions. Who are interacting? The reader and the text. Through the interaction of the reader and the text, meaning and value are constructed, are built around a literary text. And it is changing. Why? Because the reader will change in every other era, in every other time. Every other person differ, right? So as the person differ, what happens? The text will also differ. The perception of the reader will differ. The viewpoint of the reader will differ. So that the meaning and the value. Louis Rosenblatt is often credited with pioneering the reader response approaches. So, reader response approach was pioneered by Louis Rosenblatt in his work Literature as Exploration, published in the year 1932. Do remember the title as the pioneer work in reader response criticism by Louis Rosenblatt. In her 1969 essay Towards a Transactional Theory of Reading, she summed up her position as a poem is what the reader lives through under the guidance of the text and experience as relevant to the text. What is a poem? So, a poem is what the reader lives through under the guidance of a text. So, under the guidance of the text, as the reader reads a poem, the reader lives through that. The reader will have many kind of experiences, right? So, the reader will live through that poem under the guidance of the text and experiences as relevant to the text. So, the reader will experience that way. The reader will find the importance, the value, the meaning of the text. So, this statement by Rosenblatt we can find in Towards a Transactional Theory of Reading. Another important associated to the criticism is Stanley Fish. So, remember Stanley Fish associated to reader response criticism. We will see them as we progress in this theory. Stanley Fish stated that literature exists and signifies when it is read. So, when we read in the sense not merely passively reading and consuming it, but when we read it, when we understand the perspectives, when we try to construct meaning, when we participate actively in that reading process, then only literature exists, literature signifies. Literature got an importance, literature got an existence when literature is read. He further gave the concept of reader belonging to some same interpretative community. So, the reader will belong to same interpretative communities. So, he bring about this particular phrase, interpretative communities, with the shared reading strategies. So, there will be some readers, they will have shared reading strategies, values and interpretative assumptions. They possess, they understand and come up with the same kind of meanings about a text. That's an interpretative communities in which readers will have same kind of reading strategies, same kind of reading values related to a text, same kind of interpretation about a text. The reader response criticism plunges into what the new critics called the affective fallacy. So, when we were discussing about new criticism, we have seen affective fallacy. Reader response criticism is drenched into affective fallacy. It is all about how reader is valuing, how reader is interpreting, how readers are using various strategies to reading it. They believe that the response of the reader is relevant. So, response after reading a particular text, poem, novel, drama, whatever it is important how the reader responded it to understand this. So, how the reader is understanding the text and responding to the meaning is important. Major reader response critics include Stanley Fish, David Bleish, H.R. Jones, Wolfgang Esser. So, these are the major reader response critics. Stanley Fish, David Bleish, H.R. Jones, Wolfgang Esser. About some of them we will learn further in this literary series, literary theory and criticism series. Now, let's see the key terms. First one is interpretive community. Just now we have seen it. Interpretative communities. It is introduced by Stanley Fish, remember, and in his essay Interpreting the Variorum, in this particular essay published in 1976, Stanley Fish came out with this phrase, the interpretative communities. He claims that interpretation is influenced by one's social context or the community one lives. This is true, right? The place, the community, the social context, the community in which a person belongs, the reader belongs, that will influence. So, the social context and community, these factors will influence the interpretation. readers within this community shares certain reading assumptions. So in a interpretive community, what happens? The readers will share some reading strategies, values, and same kind of interpretation about a text. Certain kind of reading assumptions will be shared by the readers in this community. It adopts particular kind of reading strategies which will in due course determine the entire reading process. So the readers who belongs to a particular interpretative community, they will also employ some kind of reading strategies that will in a due course, as the reading process progress, it will determine the reading process. The strategies that they employ will determine the entire reading process, the stylistic peculiarities of a literary text, as well as the experience of the assimilating them. So as the reading process progress, what happens? The strategies will determine the stylistic peculiarities of the text as the reader unravel it, and the assimilating experiences happen to the reader after reading that. Okay, so that's what you need to know about the interpretative communities put forwarded by Stanley Fish. Next, we have horizon of expectations. This is also related to reader response criticism. Horizon of expectations. It is introduced by German philosopher Hans Robert Jauss. About him we will learn. So horizon of expectation is introduced by German philosopher known as Hans Robert Jauss to designate the set of cultural norms, assumptions, and criteria shaping the way in which readers understand and judge a literary work at a given time. Okay, the reader's cultural cultural aspects of a reader, assumptions of a reader, and also many other perceptions that the reader has, social or personal. So all these things are acting as a criteria in shaping in the way in which the reader is understanding and judging a literary work. Okay, that's why many people find in the post-colonial times that literature produced by the colonizers have certain kind of representation of the third world people, and they are protesting it. They are not reading the same text in the same way how Europeans read the work. How we are reading Jungle Book, it is different from how European people are reading Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling, because the assumptions that we have, Indians, the cultural norms that we have, how we are associating and perceiving this work is different. So the criteria shaping Jungle Book as a Indian reader is different from a European reader. Judgment given to this work is different from every other distinct reader. So that is horizon of expectations. The horizon encompasses the social norms and historical situation of a given time and place. Not only the reader, but it also get affected. This horizon of expectation, it is determined by the social norms, historical situation of time and place. Okay, in which territory, in which time you are reading this work. Not the time of a day, but historical time. That is also important. It also situates the work in relation to others, so that the reader's horizon of expectation can also be included. So who has this horizon experience? It is the readers. Okay, so it also situates, this horizon also situates work in relation to the other works. There are similar other, if you are reading a novel, then there are other novels written by the same author, other novel written in the same time, other novel written about the same events, other novel written in the same background. So the readers will also compare or readers will also find a work in relation to other works as well. Okay. Next important concept that we can see in the reader response criticism is implied reader. Implied reader as a concept, as a phrase first used by Wolfgang Iser in his work The Implied Reader to describe a hypothetical reader of a text. So he Eser brings about a hypothetical reader of a text. So while the text is written, before reading by any human being, there is an implied reader inside that text. Okay, that is mean by the implied reader. See, the implied reader of the Jungle Book is not Indians. The implied reader is Europeans. There in the Jungle Book. That's why we find problem when we read the Jungle Book. That's why we see the implied reader of the Heart of Darkness is not Africans but Europeans. Okay, the implied reader varies. This implied reader is also playing an important role in bringing about meaning. According to Eser, the implied reader incorporates both the pre-structuring of the potential meaning by the text and the reader's actualization of the potential through the reading process. So this implied, Eser says that there is a meaning inside the text, many other kind of meaning, right? So there is a potential meaning. The potential meaning of the text, it is pre-structured, already structured by the implied reader. When the actual reader comes, the implied reader will play a major role in actualizing this potential meaning. Okay, through the reading process as the original reader. Original meaning the actual active reader comes and read the text. So the potential meaning already structured by the implied reader, it is there. So through the reading process, the original or the real reader will actualize the meaning inside the text. So in order to actualize this meaning by the real reader, implied reader plays a great role by pre-structuring the potential meaning. So the implied reader will, in a way, it will bring about certain potential meanings. At the same time, it can conceal certain meanings as well. So the reader's responsibility is that what? You can actualize this potential meaning through the process of reading. You can bring about other meanings as well. Any text may be said to presuppose an ideal reader who has the particular attitudes appropriate to that text in order for to achieve its full effect. In order to bring about the full effect, in order to bring about the appropriate attitude in that text, there is an ideal reader. See, for the Jungle Book, the ideal reader is a British person, Eurocentric person, or an ideal reader of the Heart of Darkness is a British person. Heterosexual Orthodox person is an ideal reader for the Heart of Darkness. Okay, so in that way, the presupposed reader, ideal reader, it will incorporate a certain kind of attitudes appropriate to the text that will in a way help in order to achieve its full effect. So these three are the major key concepts related to reader response criticism. If you have any doubts, do mention that in the comment section or use the number to reach out to me. Let's see the key text related to reader response criticism. First one is by Wolfgang Eser, The Act of Reading, a Theory of Aesthetic Response, published in 1974. Then again by Eser, The Implied Reader. What is the full title? Patterns of Communication in Prose Fiction, from Bunyan to Beckett, which is the main work by John Bunyan. The Pilgrim's Progress, Beckett. Waiting for the Godot, published in the year 1974. Okay, this work, The Implied Reader by Eser, is published in 1974. Harold Bloom came up with a work known as The Map of Misreading. A Map of Misreading, published in the year 1975. Stanley Fish, again another work by him, Is There a Text in This Class? The Authority of Interpretative Communities, published in the year 1980. Jonathan Culler published a work known as The Pursuit of Science, Semiotics, Literature, Deconstruction, in the year 1981. H.R. Joss came up with a work known as Aesthetic Experience and Literary Hermeneutics, in the year 1982. Jaws again came up with Towards an Aesthetic Reception. Towards an Aesthetic Reception is written by H.R. Jaws, published in the year 1982. These are the major works written by major reader response critics. Okay, read these titles and the author's names 2-3 times so that you remember them along with the publishing year. So that's all about an introductory video of the literary criticism known as reader response criticism. If you have any doubts, do mention that in the comment section along with your suggestions and extra points if you know. And also don't forget to visit my website www.highpoint.in, and also follow me on Instagram. If you have any doubts, reach out to me using this number. Let me meet you in the next video session. Until then, stay tuned to High Point and be happy and strive for your next upcoming NTA UGC NET JRF English Language and Literature exam. Tata, bye bye.